Hello and welcome to The Insight Edit, the show where we break down the art and strategy behind powerful video content.
We are your hosts today, and they could change from week to week from NRG Studios. I'm Rob, and this is Connor. And in each episode, we dive into the ideas, stories, and creative decisions that turn video from just another asset into a business-changing tool.
Whether you're planning your first project, wondering why production costs what it does, or just trying to figure out how your next campaign could really work, this is where we unpack it all.
All of it. From finding the right agency, to using AI effectively, to understanding when the magic truly happens in the edit. The Insight Edit is your backstage pass to the world of video production and brand storytelling.
In today's episode, we're talking about why, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. We'll explore why clear goals, timelines, and communication can make or break a video project.
So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get into the Insight Edit. Right, Connor, where are we going to start? So if you don't plan, you plan to fail.
Yes.
So what does that actually mean for the folks watching this and listening to it?
I personally think that one of the worst things you can do is wing it. I would say it's a mixture of knowing why it's needed and now, who it's needed for, what they want this to do. Do they want someone to just be aware of who they are as a brand or a business? Do they want to get involved with them as a brand or a business? Do they want to buy something? And if they do want to buy something, what are they hoping that this product, this video, this animation, whatever they're making, what is it they want to see as a return from that? Is it a certain number of products they hope to sell because of this or help boost the engagement? Is it LinkedIn followers? Is it subscribers, likes, interactions, sales, whatever it might be? Maybe it's recruitment focused. Maybe it's about hopefully the video will help boost our recruitment efforts by 30%. I don't know. I think you need to know that. You need to have clear goals from the start, to know why you're even going to entertain a video. Yeah. I'd like to say video is the right platform for them because we want to do video, but is video the right platform? Have they considered what they might need? Maybe it's an animation, maybe it is a podcast, maybe it's a whole YouTube series.
It's also understanding, I think, not just who are the key stakeholders in that planning process, but also kind of how much input the client actually wants. Do they have other things on their plates at the moment? Kind of thinking about what they are going through at their work, even though they've got this project in place. I'm sure it's not the only project in place they've got, right? So it's those kind of questions as well, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So what happens after that then? So we've kind of gathered all that information. I guess it then goes back to what I was saying earlier around, then we have to kind of work out, well, what does this look like? Isn't it?
Yeah, I guess we need to then think about the creative and therefore things like the budgets and timings and really thinking about the wider picture than just we want to make something fantastic, because there's always going to be different elements that maybe get in the way of that or we need to consider or think about. So I know from our perspective, we would write a proposal, give some options that maybe work on a tier system, so that the client can kind of help that idea mold into maybe what's achievable.
And that tier system is quite important, isn't it?
I think so.
Because different creatives cost different things. There's different investments within those creative ideas.
Yeah, and I think that presenting that to them and helping them buy in and ask questions and also giving them an opportunity for themselves to think about that creative and challenge it even further or question it or maybe even mold it slightly, because a lot of the times you'll find that you're not just trying to buy into whoever we're talking to. They've got to take this and also do a second pitch to someone else to get that buy-in. So getting their initial feedback to understand that they understand the creative we're putting forward, but also they might know something that's going to tip it even further, which gives us that chance to maybe tweak something before it goes wider. Again, getting everyone fully on the same page right from that get-go before even signing off a budget, because it only takes one person to not be involved or just not really get it for it to sometimes just crumble.
I think that's really good.
A bit
that's
later
a really,
on.
really important point, actually, that perhaps not all the time, but some of the job that we have is making sure that the person that we are pitching those ideas into understands them enough to take them to perhaps the budget holder or even higher up into
as if
the
it's an
organisation.
idea of their own.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we do our job, but they've still got their job to do, which is to completely give it that full inspiration and passion that we've got for creating this. And if they can't or still don't quite get it, then that's going to be harder to buy in wider.
But we also, I think one of the questions I think is really important that we ask is the element of, is there anything that we've missed? Maybe there's a tonal thing or a language thing that perhaps we've missed as part of our creative process at that very, very early stage of planning, where if we can just nail that part within the language of the client, and it doesn't matter how much we work with them or how much we know them, sometimes it's just those little nuances internally which we can't pick up on, but helping them do that helps set the proposal going and gives it more robust kind of sail into the next person who perhaps is the budget holder.
Yeah, and I think in terms of next steps, when you have finally got the job and everyone's on board and knows what they're doing, them having things in place isn't a constraint. It is just a process.
Yeah.
I think it could be looked at as being too, not micromanagey, but knowing there's a timeline and we need to stick to this timeline, and we need to do our part then and you need to do your part then, and things like kick-off meetings and so on, all of it is important. It might feel overkill, especially if it's your first time jumping on a project and you're like, why do I need all of this just to get something
but what about,
made on camera?
Process freedom? Can't we just, it goes back to that winging piece, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why can't we, shift projects around? Why can't we move the creative a little bit here once we think the creative's locked off? Where does that all come in the planning phase?
I think the reason planning is important to counterbalance the winging is there are things in place that can't afford to be winged. Just changing a change of an idea a bit too last minute, especially once you've gone past the storyboarding and past the scripting, and now we're at the film and we've recorded someone's talking head, and then it's upon watching that first edit you go, I think he should say this. Well, it's too late now. We can't go back and we can't wing. And that's where knowing that there were rounds of reviews for scripting and storyboarding, and knowing that we needed to get it signed off, and the importance of getting it signed off before jumping to the next stage is so important, because it isn't as tweakable sometimes. Some things can be and some things can afford to be, but a lot of the time there is a process in place to give you that end result for the time and budgets that you're kind of working with.
Is there a sort of weight, if we think about this kind of weighted, is it weighted in to ensure that production and post-production is more successful? Is it perhaps weighted more in the pre-production stage, where like all the things you've just spoken about, where actually getting those things right, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, getting those things right actually ensures a better outcome than perhaps we'd all envisaged in the first place?
I think so. I think pre-production is incredibly important. I think it tends to be thought about less, especially if you're not involved in video or have never done it before. I think the concept of storyboarding, the concept of scripting can feel daunting to a client sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I think when they think about making a video, even if it's maybe just a simple talking head, that person might still want a script. And if we're scripting it, are you scripting it? Who needs to sign it off? Does it need to go through things like legal? Because there's so many things to consider.
I think of some of the pharma clients that we work with.
And all of that is what makes pre-production so important, because you can't afford to change some of these things once we get too far down the line, because it could mean having to reshoot, it could mean having to go back to storyboarding again, or coming out of another visual concept. But what do you think? What's your
I think pre-production is not perhaps one of the most important phases, and I think sometimes, I think you should mention this anyway, but I think sometimes clients want to rush into the shooting quicker than we would like, and I think that's why perhaps why we have been so successful in in all of our productions, pretty much because of the pre-production weight that we put on it. Because of that reason, we know, and I think what it does, I mean, I don't think it does. What it does is it gives clients reassurance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It gives them reassurance that not the piece about we know what we're doing, because of course we know what we're doing. We've all been doing it a long time, right? But just the reassurance from a client's point of view that we are really involved in the pre-production, we really understand that pre-production, and we understand the importance of it. But also giving that client that assurance that if we do this bit right and we get everything in right place, the rest of it kind of flows pretty well, doesn't it? Pretty
Well, it
naturally.
should do. In theory, that's the whole point of doing pre-production.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, skip it and move on.
Yeah. Or just wing it, right?
What are your thoughts on making sure, though, that you're planned for unplanned stuff? Like, how do you tackle something that comes about out of nowhere?
I think experience. I think sometimes, I mean, you're right. I mean, how many shoots have we been on in this country, abroad? We've got lots of actors, or, the CEO turns up 4 hours late, or whatever. I mean, there are always nuances in these productions, aren't they? I think some of that planning for those bits, where we think we can plan, we do. So if actors, like production with TV commercial we did in the summer this year, there were nuances in that, weren't there? We were working with child actors.
Yeah.
We were working with adult actors on a job for an Alzheimer's output. And there were nuances. There were things that happened on those productions quite, in some respects, naturally. And I think through our experience, collective experience, we can kind of think that those things might happen. So it's kind of planning for those things, well, the what ifs moment, right?
I think there's lots of planning that comes into it, whether it's things like costume, not just buying one size, but buying two, maybe even three, because what might fit you, even if it is a size 34 jean, is not the same for every brand. So you get to
my
that
sizing
shoot.
Clearly, Connor.
I think you are, because I think you said it was me as well. But, a size 34 jean at Gap might not be the same at Marks and Spencer's. So even just those little thoughts about, okay, we've got an actor, we need a pair of jeans, you buy a pair of jeans, you get there, and the pair of jeans are too tight.
Yeah.
Well, now what? Well, here's a second pair I brought earlier. Because if you're just not thinking about even the small details like that, it can set you back, in regards to something like a film shoot.
So I'm just going to take that for a second, that about the costumes. And again, and it is these small details which I don't think a lot of people realise, is that, when you are in the pre-planning stage, the importance of understanding what the costumes, the colours of the costumes, the style of the costumes, and how that influences the output in the end.
Yeah.
And thinking about, again, it's all of those things that we think about of, well, the costume needs to be these colours, it needs to match with the rest of the set. I mean, yes, we've hired a house, but we still need to dress that set and make it look, so that's all in the planning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again,
I feel like that could be its own theme for another episode, to be honest, about
Let's
just
do that.
costume and clothing and what to wear.
100%.
Because we get asked
100%.
it all the time. But anyway, back to this subject matter.
So planning for the things that could go wrong, I guess, is what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, because there are some things that you can plan that are going to potentially fail, like someone turning up on time, or a child just not wanting to do what they're being paid to do, but that is a child at the end of the day, or things like weather. We can sometimes plan a shoot, and sometimes we can plan around weather, but there are occasions we've done shoots where we have no choice but to stick with the date, and now it has just suddenly decided it's going to start raining, and we do keep an eye on it. So what do? Bring in a gazebo, bring in whatever it might be. Do we just change the location exactly where we film potentially? But I suppose there are also things that are just inevitable. You just can't, you can't foresee it happening. So it's about reacting quickly, but reacting thoughtfully at the same time, because we can't now let this stall us unless for reason it gives us a reason to stall. But if we need to act fast, we do also have to think about the repercussions of suddenly just tweaking something. And sometimes it's a matter of agreements, sometimes it's a matter of someone finally seeing it further down the line, sometimes it's just I don't even know what else there could be.
So have you got any examples?
Usually it is a reviewing situation.
Yeah, normally it is
most
normally
of the time.
So have you got any examples of stuff that's happened on a shoot? I can give you one to give you a bit of time to think. So we were filming out in Italy, in Lake Como, in this incredibly strange hotel. We had all the kit in the hold, apart from the cameras. Never ever put the cameras in the hold. Ever put the cameras in the hold, because if nothing else turns up, you can still film.
Yeah.
Anyway, rock up, get to the land at the airport. Nothing turns up. Like literally nothing turned up. So and it was a medical conference.
Oof.
So we had to do like 5 interviews over one day, and they were going to come in at sporadic times while the conference was going on. So what did we have to do? We had to find in Lake Como tripods and some lights. And no word of a lie. So we've managed to find a photographer that had some tripods and lights. And of course we were thinking, they would just be modern tripods and lights. No. A wooden tripod turned up, 2 wooden tripods, and the oldest lights I've ever seen in my life from like the 60s turned up. My biggest concern was actually the lights would set the place on fire, if I'm honest. I mean, gaffer taping the cameras to the tripods.
Because were they pat tested?
Let's
Probably
not go there. Let's not go there. But we managed to make it happen, right? Did it look amazing, off camera? Not really. It looked like a bod's job, but we actually got on and did it right. So again, it's kind of thinking about how can we still make this shoot happen, where we knew we couldn't hold our cameras for, an hour of interview. We couldn't do that. So have you got something?
Another one that might not be able to go in the podcast, but I will mention it because I don't know if you remember this one. We had a certain client that was doing self-recorded videos, and in the background...
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So
no, come on, we can say this
I think
one.
we could say
we
this
can
one,
say this one.
because we won't drop names. But we were doing a virtual recording project, which is where we typically aren't involved in the recording unless you want us to be, and we can do it virtually. But we were actually provided recorded files, which people were recording on their phones and iPhones and laptops, whatever. Anyway, we got to the edit, and they were filming themselves against the window, and outside of their window was another block of apartment flats.
It was a hotel, wasn't it?
I think it was a hotel, but there was a
hotel.
block of apartments outside the window. So they're doing their talking head, talking to camera, blah, 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 send us the file, and while we're editing it, we've noticed that in the background, there is someone in their apartment.
Always check your backgrounds, folks.
Yes. Which, to be fair, they were very small in the background, but they're in the background getting completely changed. I don't know if they were thoroughly naked.
I think there were, some clothing, but not a lot.
Very minimal.
Minimal.
So then it's just a matter of didn't expect that, can't go about like that, rotoscope them out, and problem solved.
Problem solved,
Problem
see?
solved.
Thinking outside the box.
Yes. I think something that makes planning so important from a communications and connections point of view is, the client, whoever you may be, may have come to us or is usually coming to us for our expertise and wants our support and wants our guidance and wants us to challenge them. And us being able to come in and say, look, if you want to do this, there's a set of things we need to do first.
Absolutely.
It just builds that trust, shows that we know what we're doing, which we do.
Yeah.
Or at least I think we
I think we do, yeah.
And it just helps create, especially for a new client, create that foundation they need to go into this with, all the confidence they need, because it can be, for some people, it can be a scary thing to do to just jump into this world. Maybe they've done live action before, but maybe they've never done animation, and someone's pushing on them to be like, let's do an animation, and they've got no clue what's involved, whether it's got characters or coming out of a suite of icons. Just saying to them, look, these are the steps. We need to style frame. We need to storyboard. We need that storyboard approved and so on. And us being able to keep reiterating that, and maybe it's setting up weekly calls with them or monthly calls, depending on the length of the project, project trackers, for them to just get always that sense of it's in hand. I know we always talk to clients, and if anything, I probably bug them too much. But I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
sometimes.
but I think also even, yes, new clients, but also, prospects that are coming on, trying to give them some reassurance around, that we are, the way I say is we are very into planning. I think planning, as we're saying on this podcast, is enormously important, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're completely rigid.
No,
all
we're
the
not
time.
control freaks.
No.
Are we? I might be.
Someone might be.
I might be. But
in a good way, Connor.
In a good way. Yeah, in a good way. Like, I've got a notepad, I've got a tick list next to it, and it's also highlighted.
Yeah.
Because I like it all to be very collectively
You're definitely
unified.
the planner. There's no,
yes.
You and Louise are definitely the planners in the
but
business.
Sometimes it is nice to have other members of the team to sort of try to break apart, not in a destructive way, but sometimes to say, look, if I just took that little bit longer, we could do this.
Yeah.
And then it's having that conversation again of, okay, client, if we took an extra day, I know this does sort of tweak the timeline a bit, but if we took that extra bit longer, we could do this,
for a better outcome.
For a better outcome, then having those conversations and explaining the clarity around why this would make a difference, what value it brings, what importance it could have. It all just comes down to, again, that planning, knowing what contingency we've got, because that's the other thing we haven't talked about is contingency when it comes to planning, that's a huge thing in itself. But knowing that we can maybe tweak around and move around, I think is what makes that bond very strong for
absolutely.
a client.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, they are investing money in us, in our expertise. And they, clients rightly so want that reassurance and build that trust. And it goes both ways, doesn't it? It's not just one-sided, but it goes both ways. So if we can reassure the client all along the way, there are steps in place, KPIs in some respect within a project with the nuances built into that and the unforeseens, then that can do nothing but build trust, can't it?
Yeah. And I think also, it's not just about just impressing you. You're the new client. We're going to do this and make it all bells and whistles. It is about doing this every single time. Whether it's a new job, whether it's an existing client, whatever it might be, having those steps in place, that kickoff meeting, those questions, those answers, whatever it might be, the storyboarding, whatever's required for the job, and even getting to the end of it and having that wash-up meeting, what worked, what didn't work, if we did this again, what would we need to do differently, and then repeating and refining that upon the next project and the next project. And sometimes it is true that the legacy clients, after working 8 years or so, you might find that becomes just built into there's no need to educate you. I'd like to hope so. There's no need to do the educating anymore. They know that something's going to take a certain amount of time. They know the potential challenges that this potential creative might have, but there's a reason we need to do it. So therefore I'm going to do this, or you need to do that. But just refining, updating, implementing and refining again and just keeping that going. And I think that's why things like wash-up meetings at the end are very important. It's just to identify what worked really well, what could we have done differently, what could you have done differently
as a client,
in a polite way.
Yeah, of course.
But I think that's important.
And that's just about building improvements in every single time, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do think, I don't want to sound cheesy, but that planning structure that we have in place is part of our DNA. It's what we do every single day with clients. And like you said, it's not about, even with new clients or prospects, it's not about impressing, going, hey, we do this and isn't it amazing? It's actually about saying, look, we do this is the way we do it, and there's a reason we do it this way, and it's because of better outcomes, isn't it? And outcomes that are trusted. So, because, as you said, we do tend to work with perhaps not the marketing director, but someone who's really important in the organisation's got this great project they've brought to us, which we are always super excited about, and making sure that they are happy with what we're doing, and we want them to feel good about it, so then they can go on and feel good about it to their boss ultimately,
and do it again.
So
I feel like we're coming naturally to the end of the conversation.
It does feel like that.
One, because I'm bored, and two, because I've had enough. I'm joking.
What, you're bored of having a podcast with me?
I'm joking.
Come on, this is season 1, Connor.
But key takeaway, what would be your number one if you had to say to someone, this is what you need to know to never fail, what would it be?
If you don't plan, you plan to fail.
Other than that, like what practical thing should they know?
It's a really good. That's actually a really, really good question. What is the one piece of advice I would say? I'd say the one piece of advice is come to us so you can understand the production process, the importance of the production process, and the importance of adhering to the planning. Because it is that planning, as we've already talked about on this podcast, that really does bring success in every production.
Yeah.
Just quote me on that one.
I would say for me, because thanks for returning the question.
One second.
No, I think leave it in, it's
okay.
funny. But I think for me, it is don't ever be afraid to ask questions, whatever the stage of project, because I think too often people are second guess. I do it, you do it, clients do it, and just think they know what they're about to do next or see next or whatever. But just ask the question. I love to ask a question. Sometimes I think I do ask too many questions.
I know you don't. You can never ask enough questions.
That's the thing. I don't think you... Can you? I can't. I don't know. It depends if the question's not a stupid question, and I've said it 5 times already. But I just think if you need to understand something with a bit more clarity, if you just need to understand something for a bit more buy-in, whatever it might be, just ask questions.
Yeah.
Come to meetings with questions. Let questions just naturally develop during a meeting, whatever it might be. Just ask.
Yeah.
Never just wait to see what happens, because that's usually when things do go wrong. It's just waiting to see how something will go.
Well, I don't think you can ever ask too many questions, because ultimately what is it we're trying to achieve here? We're just trying to achieve the best, right? On every single production. And if you don't ask enough questions, and I probably don't ask enough questions, you are brilliant at asking lots of questions to clients. You can cut that one out. But you are, Connor. That's, and that's why our productions, yes, it's a team production, but those kind of initial questions to get the ball rolling is ultimately why, we have the outcomes that we have and we have the success that we've got.
Yeah, I think the whole team's good at asking questions as well, which is the best bit. Just the collaboration in general. Anyway, it's becoming a piece about us now. But
it's not about us, it's about the clients,
yes,
always. So, Connor, it looks like that's the end of today's episode of the Insight Edit.
We hope you found something useful to take away, a fresh perspective, a practical tip, or maybe just a spark of inspiration for your next video project.
At NRG Studios, we believe every great piece of content starts with insight, and it's those insights that helps brands stand out, connect emotionally, and drive real results.
And if you've enjoyed today's chat, make sure you're following us so you don't miss an episode.
And we'd love to hear from you. What topics would you like us to dive into next? Drop us a message or connect with us on LinkedIn. Your suggestions could shape a future episode.
Next time, we'll be exploring what to expect when you engage with an agency, where we'll explain roles, collaboration, and how agencies translate business challenges into visual storytelling. So stay tuned.
Thanks for listening. I'm Rob, this is Connor, and this has been the Insight Edit. Until next time, keep creating with purpose.